Hey everyone, and welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to completely dismantle the way you think about your bank account. I mean, if you've ever sat there wondering where on earth your hard-earned money actually disappears to by the end of the month, well, this framework and the story behind it is going to fundamentally change your relationship with your finances. So let's jump right in.
So I want you to meet Victor. He's 29 years old, lives in a mid-sized city, and honestly has a really respectable job as a junior accountant at a logistics company. Victor's out here with new clothes, he's got the absolute latest phone, and he spends his weekends eating out. But every single night, staring up at his ceiling, Victor is haunted by this one agonizing question. I make money, so why am I always broke? Because by the 20th of every month, he's barely scraping by, and he's secretly carrying this credit card debt that has just been snowballing for 2 years straight.
And look at the sheer irony of this. Victor is literally an accountant. He's a guy whose day job is managing other people's money. Yet there he is, standing at a grocery store counter on a Friday evening, and his card gets declined for basic everyday items like rice and eggs. His face just burns red. He steps outside, opens up his banking app, and this is exactly what he sees: $11.40. And you know what the absolute worst part was? His sister had just called him. Their mom desperately needed dental surgery. His sister was able to cover half, but she really needed Victor to chip in $1,000. And Victor, a guy with a full-time professional salary, couldn't even buy his own groceries, let alone help his mom out.
That night, just totally drowning in shame, Victor realized something really profound. Because it's so incredibly easy to buy into that convenient myth of, oh, I just don't make enough money, right? It's the perfect excuse. But the reality is way more uncomfortable. The core issue is rarely our salary. The real problem is how we handle every single dollar that passes through our hands. Think about it. No one actually teaches us how to manage a paycheck in school. We learn algebra for sure, but we never learn how to stop spending money we don't have just to impress people we don't even like.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the cracked cup problem.
So, the very next morning, Victor is wandering around the city, and he stumbles into this faded little stationery shop. The elderly shopkeeper there, who's actually tracking numbers by hand in a physical ledger, offers him some tea and a lesson that schools literally never teach. He picks up this old teacup that has a tiny fracture right at the base, and he explains that if you pour tea into it, it leaks out so slowly you don't even notice it's happening. But give it an hour, the cup is entirely empty. And this right here is the cracked cup problem. You see, unnecessary spending rarely looks like going out and buying a luxury sports car. It looks like tiny, quiet leaks that silently just drain your wealth over the course of a whole month.
Let's actually look at the specific cracks in Victor's cup. This wasn't massive, catastrophic spending at all. It was having 3 streaming services running at the exact same time. It was leaning on the convenience of those food delivery apps. It was a gym membership he hadn't touched in 6 whole months, buying a shiny new phone when his old one was perfectly fine, and that daily coffee habit. Small leaks, big losses. So the shopkeeper gave him an assignment. Write down everything you spent last month. Circle what truly made your life better and cross out the rest.
Which brings us to Section 2, Addition and Subtraction.
The shopkeeper then laid out this brilliant framework drawn entirely from primary school math, and he started with addition. Now, most people hear the word addition and they immediately think, oh, I need a higher salary. But real addition actually means adding habits that protect your wealth. You need to add knowledge about how money actually works. You have to add the daily habit of tracking your spending. And absolutely crucial here, you need to add an emergency fund, even a really small one, just so life's little surprises don't completely crush you. When the shopkeeper asked Victor if he tracked his spending or if he had an emergency fund, Victor had to admit no, he didn't. And the shopkeeper replied with this brutal truth. You have been trying to do math with only half the numbers. You simply cannot solve your financial equations if you don't actually know what you're working with on a daily basis.
Then we get to subtraction. And make no mistake about it, the shopkeeper warned that this is, for sure, the hardest rule. Why? Well, because it requires brutal honesty. Subtraction means actively removing emotional spending. Those things you buy just because you're bored or stressed out or sad. It means deliberately plugging those tiny leaks in your cracked cup. It literally requires you to sit down and cross out those purchases you made solely to look good in front of others.
Moving right along to Section 3, Multiplication and Division.
So once you've trimmed your leaks, you apply the next phase. Multiplication isn't about getting rich overnight. You can just forget those lottery fantasies right now. Multiplication is all about consistency and patience. It's saving a small amount every single month and letting it sit somewhere safe to grow. But it's also about multiplying your earning power by building up new skills. For Victor, this meant finally using his accounting background to start up a weekend bookkeeping side hustle for a local bakery. It was just a small, steady multiplier to his regular income. But then there's division. And honestly, division is an absolute game changer. Division is the proactive art of giving every single dollar a job before it even arrives. The mistake so many of us make is waiting until the very end of the month to see what's left over to save. By then, there's nothing left. So the shopkeeper instructed Victor to divide his money the exact second his salary hit his account.
And here is exactly how you apply that division. The shopkeeper drew these out: living expenses, savings, investments, and emergencies. But then he added two absolutely crucial, yet often overlooked categories: learning and giving. Setting aside a little money to buy a book or take a course so you can grow your own skills, and setting aside even a tiny fraction to help others. Because money that is shared, well, it returns in ways a spreadsheet just can't measure.
All right, let's look at Section 4. Money is a relationship.
The shopkeeper challenged Victor to apply these exact rules for 3 months. And he actually did it. He tracked every single penny, and he divided his paycheck immediately. 3 months later, a much lighter, significantly more confident Victor goes back to the shop and asks the old man, "Why do you track your numbers by hand in that heavy ledger when a computer could do it instantly?" And the old man's answer is the absolute core truth of our explainer today. He said, "Because when you write every number by hand, you feel it. Money is not just math, it's a relationship, and relationships require attention."
What Victor achieved wasn't what society calls financial success. He didn't suddenly have this massive net worth or a six-figure salary. Nope. His clothes were the same. His apartment was exactly the same. But underneath it all, he had achieved financial peace. He finally had a small emergency fund. His credit card debt was actually shrinking. And most importantly, when the time came, he sent his mom the money she needed for her surgery on time without borrowing a single cent from anyone. He traded all that anxiety and shame for true freedom.
And finally, Section 5, the 3-month challenge. Now, if Victor can turn it around, so can absolutely anyone watching this explainer. Here is your blueprint. Step 1. Tonight, I want you to sit down and write out every single expense from last month to find the cracks in your own cup. Seriously, don't judge yourself, just observe the numbers. Step 2. When your next paycheck arrives, divide it first. Set aside your savings before you spend a single dollar on anything else. Give every dollar a job. And step 3. Find just one thing to subtract this week. One unused subscription or one habit that costs you money but adds zero value to your life. Just remove it and see how that feels. You know, you don't necessarily need to earn more to live better. You just need to understand and respect the money you already have. Because remember, money is a relationship. It demands your attention. Give it that attention, direct it, and it will finally start working for you instead of just disappearing on you. So I'm going to leave you with this question to act on right now. Which crack in your cup will you fix tonight? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.